So I'm gonna send it over to Brian now. Take it away.
Okay. All right, so you should start to see me now, right? Well, thank you,
And
Allie.
if anybody can't see, let us know. Sorry to interrupt, Brian. If anybody can't see or is having audio issues, type it into the questions of the chat and I'll address them. Okay, thanks.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Allie, and thank you very much to the Small Business Development Center. You know, if you're on this call, you're already familiar with the SBDC and the value that they bring to small businesses. And, you know, this our topic today is the presentation was put together far before this whole pandemic crisis, but it's probably more relevant now than it ever has been, particularly because the human-to-human interaction and face-to-face is less than it was before. So we only have our digital reputation to fall back on in our digital presence. But thank you very much for the SBDC helping small businesses navigate you know, federal monies and everything that's happening. So as promised, you know, I am going to deliver content to show you exactly what makes our business sing and the services that we do for clients. But this is not a sales pitch. What I'm going to walk you through is our exact process on how we help somebody be recognized for the expert that they are in their industry. And this is particularly important because, you know, when most small businesses are started, you know, they're typically not salespeople, you know, hardwired salespeople that decide to go out on their own. I mean, most businesses in America are started from the technician that works for somebody else, that does a good job, that's a star employee, that decides somewhere along the way, hey, I can be in business for myself and make more money and have more freedom. And that's how most businesses technically are started. So what that means is that expert technician goes out on their own, and they're still an expert plumber or expert in whatever industry that they're in, but it doesn't make them a salesperson. They still need to get clients, and that's where a lot of businesses are tripped up. So if you're not a natural born salesperson, this presentation is specifically for you, okay? And by the way, throughout the course of this presentation, if you have any questions, go ahead and jot them down in the chat feature there. And I promise before we hang up, I'll answer every one of them, okay? Okay, slides are not advancing. Here we go. Great. So, you know, what do I tell you this? What do we do for business specifically? You know, and we help clients be recognized for the experts that they are, and we do that by creating content that can be shared through social media channels, e-newsletters, and their own internal databases, and even published around national media. You know, the thought process is there is an expert in every industry, and there's an expert in your industry that you're listening to. In most industries, that is up for grabs, and that top tier changes all the time. I propose to you, if you use some of these techniques, you yourself can be seen as the expert and the one to go to when somebody has some questions. So if you can do that, if you can position yourself at the top of your industry and be synonymous with solutions, you'll develop yourself a stronger network, referral network, more inquiries, deal flow, and you'll have a stellar reputation. And if you can do that effectively, business will come to you and you can rely less on your outbound sales efforts. So I want to kick this off by clearly announcing the intentions and let you know I'm going to lay out our exact step-to-step process on how we get results for clients, and there's nothing stopping you from taking this content and getting results for yourself. This webinar is chock full of useful information that if implemented, it will drive your business forward. So a little bit about myself. Let's see, I describe myself, I'm the chief strategist, first of all, for buildmyreputation.net. I'm a businessman, a part-time cross-country coach, and a dad to 2 girls, and been now happily married, as far as I know, for 18 years. So before buildmyreputation.net, I owned a marketing firm and several niche business magazines, including Advantage Business Magazine, and that may ring a bell with some of you on the call. The same practices I'm teaching today, I've proven myself by crafting my own professional reputation. And I started my career out of college just as the internet was coming online, and my sales tools at that time consisted of a telephone, my car, and a memorized sales presentation. And pretty much that was it. But sometime after the year 2000, I started to see how my push strategy of selling, meaning cold calling, knocking on doors, and talking to anybody who's willing to listen, that just wasn't working as well as anymore. And I was taking meetings with really anybody that could afford my services, and it wasn't a real targeted approach. And what ended up happening was I gave a lot of unpaid consulting to people that were simply just pumping me for information. And in the pre-internet world, that's how it was done. I mean, I didn't blame them for doing it, because back then, that's how prospects got their information to make good informed buying decisions. They would talk and get educated by their employees. But I knew there was a monumental shift coming, and I needed really to shift my tactics, because people started going online to see who the experts were and who they should do business with. And that's when I decided I better reposition myself as to be the go-to guy in my area, the go-to guy in my industry. So I learned how I could leverage my good reputation so that people would seek me out instead of me chasing them. And when I did, business became a lot easier. I started making more money, I wasted less time, and I certainly shortened my sales cycle, all things that I'm sure you would welcome too. So as a result, this effort has helped position me as the expert, and I've been recognized as a Rotarian Business Person of the Year and a SBA Media Advocate of the Year. I'm invited to participate, and I write frequently for Entrepreneur Magazine and others. I've served on banks, on the board for banks, business incubators, and even our local university. And all of this community involvement has exposed me to the right people that has helped move my business forward, because they know what I do for work. And none of this would have been possible if I didn't take an active role in building my online and offline reputation. So business is a lot easier now. I no longer make cold calls. People reach out to me for my expertise and professional guidance. And all of that has put me in a position to share with you how I did it. So how to build a reputation that does your selling for you. How to build a digital reputation that does your selling for you. So by being perceived as a subject matter expert, you're going to be in a position of trust and gain an edge over your competitors. By promoting your own written and video content through social media, email blasts, and media, you can scale your business development. Your website's going to rank more better, and you'll collect more leads. Now, the first step is to learn, how does Google operate? Because really, that's how most solutions are found in today's business world, okay? It's either a referral, one-on-one, or somebody is typing in something in a search. And if you think about it, every Google search is a question. Like I mentioned earlier, back in the pre-internet days, prospects would be forced to get their information from their salespeople, and that's why the old model of selling worked. The salesperson that hustled the most, made the most calls, drove the most miles, they're the folks that made the most money. But starting around 1999, that model started to change. And now that we've been in the information age now for over a decade, those salespeople still practicing those old selling techniques either are or soon will be irrelevant. So when someone has a question now, they turn to Google for the answer. And I'm sure you do this yourself. It can be anything. I mean, there's millions of questions asked per day. Simple questions like, can I write off my RV? Do I have to pay overtime to salaried employees? What is the difference between an LLC and an S Corp? These are just a couple of examples of a million questions that are asked online per day. In fact, it's 63,000 searches per second, 228 million searches per hour. So this is the new battlefield, and this is where we need to learn how to compete. Now, and if that makes sense to you, so every day there are, as I mentioned, every day there are questions that are being asked, and there is somebody, some individual or some company that steps up and answers those questions. Those companies that begin to help people move closer to a solution, those are the companies that are in the driver's seat and have earned trust and are one step closer to a sale, because the next logical step is to reach out to them and gain some influence, or reach out to them and ask some really specific questions as it relates to them. So think, so those professionals that do that, I mean, they have a distinct advantage. So I want you to think about a frequently asked question that you get in your business. And I promise you, if you have a frequently asked question that you get online, that you get in person, I promise you that same question is answered online. And if you wanted to, you could open another browser and just type in whatever your frequently asked question is on Google and see what the answers are. And chances are you're going to find hopefully it's you, but hopefully I think maybe you'll find some of your competitors. All right. So find out what those answers are that Google serves up. And if you haven't yourself answered these questions on social media and on your website, you're missing out, and you don't even necessarily realize it. So you're ceding this digital battleground to your competition, and you've lost the fight before you even have begun. If your competitors are answering the questions, we all know that questions are the first step in earning a sale, and you really want to welcome those. So if you're not regularly publishing written content and digital and video content on your site, then what's happening is you're being overtaken by your competitors, and you become digitally invisible, and you operate at a distinct disadvantage. So if that makes sense to you and you realize some of the advantage of publishing the content, let's talk about actually how you can do that and what the next steps would be. So the slide that you see now is a self-audit. So before you begin writing or contract somebody to do some writing for you, you really want to really ask yourself some questions. All right. So ask yourself, what is your ideal client? And while that question may seem elementary, I assure you it's not. You likely already know who your ideal client is, but I want you to challenge yourself and understand the different personas within. So really dig deep here. And I'll give you an example. So a young single mother of 3 has very different motivations and emotional triggers than does a retired wealthy couple. Yet both might need the products and services that you provide. Like as an insurance, for example. So the challenge becomes, how can we craft content that's specific and relevant to them both? And one size does not fit all. Each piece of this future content will be designed to speak to them individually. So next, make a list of your frequently asked questions. So like I said before, these questions that you get frequently, those are the same ones that are happening online, okay? And don't be afraid to share some of the knowledge, some of the expertise that you have. All of that expertise that's locked up in your brain doesn't do you any good if you don't let it out and let somebody actually consume it, because you're never going to solve anybody's problem with a blog post, but you might get them thinking in the right direction. You might get them one step closer to a solution. All right, so think about those different questions that are being asked online, and document your canned answers so you can use it for future web content, blog posts, and emails. So what niche do you see an opportunity in? And I'll give you an example. Don't be afraid to niche down. The closer you can get to your ideal client and the problem you're trying to solve, the more effective it's going to be. I'll give you an example. One of our clients is a business broker, and typical business brokers really represent, at the level I'm talking about, really represent businesses that have about under $5 million in revenues, okay? Anything more than that, it becomes more of a private equity deal. But they'll sell any business as long as they keep good, clean books and that they're under a certain range. We've got a client that decided, took a big risk, that decided he's only going to sell heating, ventilation, and air conditioning companies. And that's what he's going to be known with. And because he niched down, he saw an opportunity there, answers all kinds of questions online, and he's become the go-to in that particular industry. And if all he does is sell HVAC businesses, he's comfortable with that, and he'll make way more money than if he's trying to be everything to everybody. Okay. Also, craft that elevator pitch. And no, don't just say what you do. You talk in terms of the value that you bring, and actually write it down, because that'll help you bring your thoughts. And here's a thought: if your value proposition isn't clear to yourself, then how can you expect it to be for others to understand it? Okay. Also, ask yourself, what specific competitor or competitors do you want to be? So in the next slide, I'm going to show you how to benchmark them. And also, is there a competitor you admire? You know, somebody you think's doing a pretty good job that you aspire to be. All right, so those are some of the things we'll go over. Okay, next. So after you have done this self-discovery exercise, this self-audit, now's when you can start to figure out, you know, what the actual content that you want to do is. And your content calendar it can be just an Excel doc, okay? This is what is designed to keep you on pace. I advise you to plan for the next 12 months, because you're not going to see a whole lot of results from month one. It's going to take a sustained effort for you to see the full benefit. All right, so come up with article titles that match what you learned in the self-audit and research stage. Don't get too hung up on the exact wording here, and that can always be changed in the creative process. But I want you to hold yourself accountable with an interview date, especially if you need input from others, a draft due date, proofing date, and finally, when the article will actually be published. I strongly encourage you to involve somebody other than yourself in the article writing process, particularly in the proofing, because it's, you know, you're only one set of eyes, and even the most seasoned professionals will make some mistakes and also use the same practice. You know, if you don't take the extra step to get another pair of eyes on it, to get it proofed with anybody, and especially hopefully somebody within your organization, you know, you run the risk of all this hard work that you just did kind of going up in smoke if you make a silly error, you know, you publish a grammatical error, or there's something factually incorrect. So I'll explain this a little bit more. So the topic, okay, again, should be things that you're frequently asked questions, you know, related to those, obviously. The content and details are your notes to get you started moving in the right direction. Now let's talk about the keywords. Now, hopefully search engine optimization, or SEO, is not a new term to you. It relates to how people find you online. And for example, if you were an accountant in North Florida, I would imagine that small business accounting would be an important keyword that you want to rank for. Okay, so you decide whatever your keywords are, this is where you'll put them in. And as you write the content, you will be able to drip in and use these keywords as it relates to the title or in the body of the article to make sure that that article appears when somebody makes a search. Target personas. Remember when I was asking about who is your ideal client? You know, the personas are the fictional but real at the same time individuals inside your target audience. And in my example before, two example target personas might be a married empty nesting couple, or it might be a single mom of three. And they both have different emotional triggers. So we want to pay attention to those. And each particular piece of content should be assigned to what to a persona. Next, launch point. I'll explain that in a future slides, but whenever we create a piece of content, you're looking for ways to really get the maximum number of eyeballs and how you can distribute it. We'll go over that a little bit more, but you should. It's not good enough just to write a piece of content and email it out or put it on your website. There's much more than we can do with it. Okay. And then the article link, I usually put that there so I can keep track of where this article actually is, especially if it's in places that are not related to my own website. Come on. There we go. All right. So as it relates to keywords that I spoke just a minute ago, sometimes you don't know what the keywords that you want to target, and you want to do some actual keyword research. So keyword traffic is defined as the frequency of the important terms used in an internet search. For example, if you're a CPA in private practice and you want to be associated with keyword small business accountant, that would be an important search term for you. The Google algorithm looks for these terms when deciding which websites to display after somebody performs a search. You'll want your website to show up ideally in the #1 position, or at least the first page of Google search results for the keywords you choose. So have a look at your competitors' websites, identify the keywords that they're going after, because you're going to want to compete on the same playing field, and you'll likely identify some keywords that they're not going after that you could have some easy wins. Your future articles should contain these keywords that you've identified as valuable. Now, we use a tool. There's a number of different free tools out there. We use something called Keyword Tracker. It's free, and it is something that'll help you. If you need some help figuring out what your keywords are, this is another little cool trick we do. So if you begin a Google search, you'll see that you'll have lots of options that come up. So this is called predictive search, and Google's trying to read your mind, so to speak, and pull up related search terms. Now this is important because there's data behind this. So the reason Google is giving you these suggestions is because that's what people have searched for in the past. Okay, so that's pretty interesting, and it should give you ideas like variations of terms. And it's important to note, like, you want to talk the language of your customer, okay? Because sometimes as professionals in our own industries, we get caught up in our own industry speak, and those terms are very natural to us, but when we communicate to those that are outside of our industry, they either don't get it or just totally confused. And I'll give you an example. We have a client that does mold damage work, okay, in residential homes, and they frequently use the term mold remediation, okay. And when we did the keyword research, we found out that there's some search traffic for mold remediation, but there's triple the traffic for mold cleanup. All right, and that's a less technical term that we definitely want to use on our home pages, because that's what people are searching for, and in essence means the same thing. All right, so let's assume that we've created this content. We've done our homework, we've done the keyword planning, we know what kind of content that we want to do. Now we kind of shift gears and we put it in this in distribution mode. Now, I want to talk to you about this because this is maybe the most important point. You want that content to live on your website, okay? Now, all of the advertising that you do, all of the social media posts that you do when you sponsor your kid's soccer game, any of that stuff, when you're networking, when you're passing out business cards, really what you're doing is you're generating interest. And there's only one place in the universe where we can translate that interest into some type of action, and that's on your website. So an example of action would be somebody coming from an outside source that happens to land on your website, and we want some type of conversion to happen, and that's either give us a call, send us an email, fill out a form fill, because for us, that's when the process starts. So success looks like this. If you boot up your computer in the morning and you have 3 or 4 form fills, or you have people emailing you regularly, and you need to work through those leads for the day, that's what success looks like, and that's how we move forward with this. So what I'm showing you here is a simple screenshot from a WordPress site. Most websites most websites are WordPress sites at this point, and not all of them. And your WordPress may look slightly different than this, but the point is, you want to put it on your site, and you'll see what I've highlighted under the tags section, and that's pretty important too, because the tags tells the Google algorithm where to display your article. At least it helps in the algorithm. So we want to put hashtag with important terms that are related to the particular article. And don't skip this step, because this will cause that content not to be found. All right, next I want to talk about your email distribution. Okay, this is where the gold is. In all of your companies, in all of your organizations, you probably have a list of email addresses. Now, maybe it's not as organized as you'd like it to be. Maybe it's just a rubber band around, a 1 foot thick collection of business cards. That's fine. We want to harvest and leverage these email addresses. Okay, maybe it's already in your customer relationship management database, and we just need to communicate to these people. But your money is going to be in the follow-up. It's not going to be in that initial meeting. So we want to take this. We want to take email seriously. We like to work with MailChimp and Constant Contact. They are 2 great tools to accomplish this. I prefer MailChimp because if you have under 2,000 contacts, there is no cost. But for more advanced features, there may be another cost, like if you wanted to use automation. And if you're more of an enterprise level client, or you want to take advantage of more features, then HubSpot and Aweber are also good alternatives as well. So let's recap, just so I don't lose anybody. You do your self-discovery, you do your self-audit, you do your editorial calendar, you create the content, you put it on your website, and next you're going to email your audience this content, because remember, the content that we're creating is value-based. We're not doing any selling at all. We're simply trying to bring value to somebody's business and make that a really valuable email. The time to ask for a sale is not here. So let's talk about how that content actually comes out in an email. Now I took this is a snapshot of one of the internal emails, or not internal, but one of the emails that Build My Reputation sends out for our own business development purposes. So notice that I teased the article by releasing only a paragraph or 2 in the email, right here. And if I still have the reader's attention after that, I'll invite them to continue reading. Guess where? On our website, because we need to drive our own traffic. And remember, if we can get eyeballs on our site, that's the one place where we can convert this interest into some type of an action. Book a meeting with us, whatever it might be. Make a comment on it. You'll see our phone number. You'll read about our service offerings, okay? In the gray section of the website is our elevator pitch. Remember earlier I talked about writing down your elevator pitch? If it's not clear to you, it's not going to be clear to any of your audience. Somebody should be able to read this in 30 seconds or less and get a good idea of what you do for business. And if they can't get a good idea or it's not clear to you, you got to work on it more. You've got 30 seconds maximum, okay? I'm always putting this in any communication we send out. I'm always putting this out. Now, next, you want a CTA or a call to action on any particular email. And in this example, it's book a complimentary call. It could be other things as well. You could invite somebody to call you. You could invite somebody to respond to this email, whatever it might be. It would be the one action that you want somebody to take from viewing this email. Now, I want to make this point. I know you've seen it, and some of you are probably guilty of it, but there was a time when, people would send out an e-newsletter, and that's what they would call it, an e-newsletter. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't get excited about a newsletter that somebody emails me anymore. And that's kind of an old style technique. So whatever you call it, we'll talk about that in a minute, whatever you call it, don't call it an e-newsletter. That's old and that's tired. When you send out these e-newsletters, many times you'll see there might be content like on this, and sometimes it's good content, but it might be 5, 6, 7, 8 different articles, right? And there's 10, 12, 13 places to click on that e-newsletter to lure people in. And the thought process there is, throwing spaghetti at a wall. Gosh, if I throw enough information at them, hopefully some sticks and they'll interact with my brand. I'm telling you that's not how to do it, okay? If you have a good idea of who your customer is and dig deep and find out who what those personas are and really understand your prospect and your client, you don't have to do those really basic and amateurish techniques. We're going to get really tight here. And with every email you send out, there should really be only one place you want to send it, only one action. So look at my example here. There's two different places to click on this email. There's actually 3 different places. One of them is to continue reading. Guess where that goes? It goes to my website. There's the Let's Chat feature here. Guess where that goes? That goes to book a meeting with us on the website. And same here, okay? So I think I've rammed that point home. Next, another distribution point. Oh, and one more thought about email. I tell you, every time you send out an email, something is going to happen, I assure you. Is it worth doing if you have 100 or only 100 or 200 contacts? Absolutely, okay? Absolutely. Stay top of mind with these people. This is stuff that your competitors are not doing. More is better. But every time you send out an email, something is going to happen. Every time we send out an email internally for Build My Reputation, we've got a list of about, 9 or 10,000 at this point. And I clear my schedule for the remainder of the day every time we send out an email, because I know I just have a bunch of follow-up to do. It just spurs activity, okay? Same can happen for you. Let's talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn, definitely post your articles on LinkedIn. It continues to be one of the most valuable resources available especially for professional service companies. And here's how to do it. Don't just start a post. I want you to click on the write an article link. And this is where I want you to cut and paste the content that you create in its entirety, by the way, and put it on write an article. And the reason I like doing that is your article becomes a piece of evergreen content that will follow your profile. So when somebody pulls up your profile and is thinking about doing business with you or is just checking you out, they'll see what you're an expert in and that you are the subject matter expert in this particular field, and they can read your articles for it. Builds credibility. There's also a search value there. Now, what I recommend to clients is not only write an article, but also click on Start a Post. And Start a Post is similar to Facebook. It's more of the shorter form stuff. But I like to take a link of where that blog post lives on your site and cut and paste it here. And then when you do that, that's going to come up a little snippet there. And again, you're trying to drive traffic to your own site. All right. Now, once we once we create content, and we're looking for ways to distribute this particular content and get some new eyeballs on it, you can really do this by working with other media outlets. And I'll tell you how this works. So it's really expensive for media to push out as much content as they need. So as a result, most do accept content from trusted sources. Now they'll call it different things. It could be a guest writer. Each publication has their own submission guidelines. Harvard Business Review, for example, has really tight parameters, and not all of your content would work there. You know, obviously Mashable is more tech-focused type content, so you have to figure out which media outlet works for you. But the point I want to make is, like, even with Harvard Business Review and Forbes, you can get them to lend their credibility to you by publishing your article, and it can be a game changer. Like using Forbes for an example, they have 6.4 million readers through their print issues, and their digital reach touches 94 million visitors monthly. Like, and that is substantial. And companies pay thousands of dollars in advertising for an audience like this, but I'm telling you, you can get it for free if you use this content distribution strategy. All right. And by the way, it's not just written articles either. Don't forget about television and podcasts. I mean, they need your help with content as well. Be timely, position yourself as a subject matter expert. So the way to get involved with this is scroll down, go to their site, scroll down all the way to the bottom, and some of them they don't make it easy to find, but sometimes it's hidden under contact us and some other stuff. And look for submissions or something similar to that. And that's how to do it. So let's see. Yeah, so, you know, one of our clients, I told you earlier that one of our clients really niched down, is having some good success, and he's in the HVAC business. You know, we've been able to develop a relationship with the editors with HVAC Insider and ACHR News and some other industry ones, where now that they have published some of our content, and it's always top quality stuff, now they know we're a trusted source. So every piece of content we're sending to them is getting published in HVAC Insider. And this is, you know, this is very valuable and way more than we could spend in advertising to get the same coverage. If you develop a reputation as being somebody who knows what they're talking about and gives good content and serves it up on a silver platter, you will be surprised at the success that you have. And lastly, you know, when all of these names of people that are controlling the content for these media outlets, they're all out there. And many times they're on the website itself. So go and see who the actual individual is, and you'll see their name. Go to LinkedIn and find them, and tell them you enjoy the content that they produce and you'd love to get linked up. They'll see it as a compliment. They will connect with you, and then they'll start to see some of the content that you're putting out on LinkedIn and see that you're an expert in your particular space, and develop a name for yourself. Also gives you another entry point when you're trying to pitch them articles. Now, everything I described takes a lot of work, okay? Particularly if you're trying to do one-on-one with these particular media outlets. We found and helped contribute to a mini ebook of sorts, which is the a guest contributor opportunities. And we've laid out, we've pulled out all of the media outlets and done all the work for you, and put who to contact and what email address to send all your stuff to. And every time, it's the same list that we use internally. So every time we run a piece of content, this is our database that we send stuff out to you, or to media outlets. If you want it, I'll give it to you. It's all free. Just in the chat feature, give me your email address if you'd like, and I'll go ahead and send it out after the call. Rinse and repeat. So, you know, repeating your effort should yield a library of content, and create this legacy for you. The more people that click on your article, the more relevant you become, and especially in the eyes of the search engine. An article you write 2 years ago can get more powerful as time goes by. So I wrote an article for entrepreneur.com back in 2017 about how business owners can take a stress-free summer vacation. And to date, it's got like 90,000 views. It's been shared like 400 times, and it continues to drive traffic to my site. Okay, and it was work that I put in, it was hours that I put in on the front end, but I'm gonna have that asset for a long time. And that's how you should look at this content. You know, don't get discouraged if you push out content and it only gets a few shares or even a few looks. You're really building a library of content that tells Google that you're a subject matter expert in the industry, and people come back to you. So what questions do we have? Let's see if I can pull them up here. Okay.
Brian, we've got one. Allie here. Hello. Says, share with folks how long it typically takes to see results. Most people want instant results and don't understand how long it takes to see them.
I would tell you that to temper your expectations, okay? Once you get into a rhythm and people know what to expect from you, the results come. You know, it might take, by the way, it wouldn't surprise me if you get results from your very first piece of content, especially if you're leveraging your own database. But you know, give it a good 3, 4, 5 months, you know, and see what happens before you make any conclusions. This strategy works for everybody in every industry, so it's something that you should be part of your regular business process. But really, where the immediate wins come from is when you're pushing this content out to your email database. It happens every time. Like, people will respond back to you, and sometimes they'll just give you some blanket comments like, "Hey, good article," or "I'd like to get your comments on something else," and we'll give you some ideas. Other times it manifests like this: "Hey, I've been meaning to contact you. I have a client that needs your services," or "You reminded me I needed to give you a ring. You know, when can we set up a call?" That's the kind of stuff that happens. The immediate results come from people that are already familiar with you. You just reminded them that you're still in business and they should do business with you.
Great, thank you. We had one more question. A couple of people were just sending their information for you to share some info with, but we have a flooring contractor. How do you follow this process when you are selling 2 different avenues, like commercial and residential? They have such different answer and people of interest.
Okay, great question. Now, if I had both commercial and residential, I'm balancing. Okay, I would develop a persona for each. What does Sally Joe homeowner look like, and what does Mr. Commercial client look like? All right. Now, and I would create content for both of those. Now, when it comes to pushing that content out, you have to segment your email database. It's not good enough to put everybody in the same bucket. Now, if your database is already polluted per se, you know, and is already segmented that way, that's one thing. You might have to create content that it might appeal to everybody. But the best way to do it is to segment your content and have people in 2 different buckets. So it can be your commercial people on one side and your residential people on the other, and you send them both different messages. So, for example, with the business brokers that I work with, we really have 3 basic buckets that we have set up, and it's buyers, sellers, and referral partners, and each get different pieces of content. Hopefully that answers your question, Corey.
Sounds like it. Thank you. We have another one that came in. Do you recommend purging our email list?
I do, and if I'm understanding your message correctly, email addresses age over time. People leave their organization, they drop their own websites. I mean, 100 different reasons why that email is no longer deliverable. And if with all of the email service providers, you're getting, if you're one of their paid customers, you're getting charged for that email address, regardless if it gets delivered or if your email gets delivered or not. And if your email list gets too old, you'll have a high percentage of what's called bounces, either hard or a soft bounce. And your internet service provider looks at that and decides, and Gmail looks at that, right? And they decide how relevant your messages are and how fresh your audience is. So the technology is set up, whereas if you really neglect your email addresses and you have lots of bounces, you lessen the probability that your message is getting delivered to the good email addresses and you're not sent to the spam box. So in short, yes, you should be massaging, you should be constantly playing with your database, filtering out the bad information. But there's lots of reasons to do that. It mostly is for affecting email deliverability, but there's also a cost associated with it. We have a client that's in transportation safety that has, he came in, he was excited that he had 20,000 contacts, which is a lot, but we looked at it, like 9,000 of them were bouncing, so we reduced his MailChimp bill from like $299 a month down to $175. So that's a real world.
Thank you. Then they're coming in now. Would you recommend we hire ghostwriters to help write our articles? If so, do you have any recommendations on where to find this type of help?
Okay, sure. Of course, that's what we do for business, but that's the end of my sales pitch. But also, so we'll be happy to talk to you about it. And if we're not going to make a good match, we can point you on to them. But yeah, those freelance writers do exist. Now, I would say you get what you pay for. Okay, so kind of like I don't want to offend any realtors, but you could throw a rock from your office and probably hit 3 realtors. Freelance writers are like that too, and not all of them are created equal. I'd want to look for somebody that has some experience in the industry and can understand the strategy behind it. You can literally go online and find a writer for 10 cents a word in India, but or some other, not just India, but anywhere else, right? And you get what you pay for. So, but yeah, any of the freelance sites like Upwork or that's one that comes to mind. You can find freelance writers all over the place. But somebody will have to be managing the strategy behind that and the quality control.
Great, thank you. They're rolling in now. Let's see. Can we be successful without the need of social media and only focus on newsletter lists?
Yes, I think I think the short answer there, it's possible. I would question why you wouldn't want to get involved with social media. Now, it doesn't mean you need to be commenting on political campaigns. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like LinkedIn, having a company page, developing the expertise and experts within your company. Don't be afraid to position either yourself or one of your employees as an expert in your industry. Because people want to work with individuals, people they know, like, and trust, not faceless companies. Okay, so embrace that personal level. I had a client one time who was a bank that I'm not going to name, and I was trying to explain that to him, and I said, well, they told me, well, why would I want to promote an individual and make them an expert, because then they'll just leave me. And I thought that was incredibly short-sighted. Like, if you're not investing in your people, they're going to leave you anyway. So, I mean, it's all about deal flow. Treat your people right, and and they'll run the deals for you. As it relates also to like Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever is relevant for your business. Don't just do it for the sake of doing it, just because you can. Choose which ones make sense for your business and give it an honest effort. Like, don't post once a year on something and just because somebody told you need to be on Facebook. If you're going to do it, commit to it. Another comment I get frequently is, well, my customers aren't on Facebook. I always take exception to that, because they may not be talking about your product and service on Facebook, but Facebook has what, 4 billion users at this point? I mean, somebody's on it. you know, so I think you're being naive if you say your customer's not on it. But is it required? No. It's all about stacking the cards and putting things in your favor, maximizing the eyeballs on your message and on your brand. And social media is a great way to do that, particularly for the cost, and that's why we recommend it, but it's not required.
Great, thank you. Well, another one, I have a Shopify website. I don't think it looks very professional. Would you advise that we make the website look highly captivating, like the one done by 99 Design? I don't know how specific that needs to be.
I'll have to go back and see who asked that question. There's a possibility I know him. Yes, so look, your website is your opportunity for a first impression, and take it very, very seriously. Just as much as your storefront and the tie you put on today or sometime in the future when you go to work. It's a big deal, and companies spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get that user experience just right. You know, when I don't do much of it anymore, but when we used to do web design, you know, our clients didn't have the budget to do the research. And should we make that button green or red, right? But we're following the lead of companies like Amazon that have billions on this, that are doing everything they can to optimize the user experience. If you're looking for if you need to prioritize your resources and your time, I would absolutely pour it into your site first, because if you have a site that isn't captivating and screams that you're not an expert in your industry, people are just, even if you generate the interest to it, it's not gonna do anything. People are gonna leave, you know, and not give you any credibility. So that's super important.
Great, thank you. Another one, there's quite a few in here. Okay. Social media in counseling business is tricky for privacy and confidentiality. Email is a similar challenge. Any advice specific to a healthcare business with privacy concerns?
Okay, good question. That comes up all the time. And really, it also comes up in the financial services world, because they're governed by the SEC. Just like they need to be careful of their guidelines, just like HIPAA. So we can still put out content. Of course, you can't get specific with any company names, and even you have to be really careful with some of the examples that you lay out. But I mean, I would follow the lead of some other organizations, and your systems have to be a little bit tighter, and people have to opt in and all of that as well. But it can still be done. But it probably has to go through a different layer of compliance and even your legal department to take a look at it. I don't know if that answers your question. If that person, I don't see exactly who answers it, but if they want to contact me offline, we can go into more detail about it and show you what I'm talking about.
Thank you. In regard to social, I don't know if this is a question or a comment or a general concern. In regard to social, as a company of one, I want to stay focused on the most profitable marketing avenue for my business. So I don't know if you want to expand on that, address it, I don't know.
Well, you're not alone. I mean, that's what everybody is trying to do, regardless of what size they are. You know, look, I can't emphasize enough understanding and getting in the mind of your most profitable customer. And when we do these professional personas, I mean, you should be asking really even deeper questions that I mentioned on the webinar here. But like, you know, what are some of the triggers? What do your prospects really care about? You know, we did a persona for a software development company in Austin recently, and we were really targeting VP level people. And they were telling me that these are people that career mobility is important to them. They want to stay on the cutting edge of technology. They likely have a high adventure type of hobby. They read Wired, Mashable, and subscribe to the Hustle email list, and all of that. So get really granular and really deep to understanding your audience, because look, if you put the work in to do this, this is what your competitors are not doing. So instead of talking to your customers on a very high level, you're being very specific, and almost like that email was tailor-made for them because you understand them so well. That's how you stay focused on your most profitable customer.
Great, thank you. We got one more. What tool do you suggest to research what is the best publication, media, etc., for a business to use?
Gotcha. Again, I'm going back to your and I think it was Kimberly that asked that. So I'm going back to your customers. Don't ask me. Ask your customers. What do you read? What media do you consume? And see if you can get a feel for that. If you're not doing it already, and no organization is too small to do this, but pay attention to your net promoter score. That is how likely people are willing to, are they just happy, or are they on the 9 and 10 level where there are an active promoter and they're giving you referrals and they're feeding your business? Or are they on the other end, are they a detractor? Are they telling people not to use you and they can't run from you fast enough? So my point for telling you that is, ask your customers, develop routines where you're continually taking the temperature of how your products and services are being received in the market. But I don't think anybody can tell you that, Kimberly, and I don't think you can answer that yourself. You've got to really do the research and ask your customers.
Thank you. Well, that looks to be all of the questions that we have. If anybody has any more, ask them now. And I just want to remind everybody, again, you'll be getting a survey. We would love to hear your feedback. It helps us to continually improve what we offer and what our speakers present. So thank you for filling that out in advance. And everybody will get a link to the recording of today's session. So again, I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. Brian, if you have anything else, final remarks?
I don't think so. I mean, gosh, we covered a lot of ground in an hour, and any one of these slides I could talk for another hour on it. But yeah, hopefully it drove some value for you. And I encourage you to take your digital footprint more seriously now than you ever have before, because I think it's more relevant. And yeah, best of luck out there.
All right, great. Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Okay, guys, everybody, thank you for coming, and we will get these emails. People who have sent their email wanting the resources, Brian, that you mentioned, I will get those to you. Otherwise, okay. Everybody have a good afternoon and stay healthy.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks. Bye.